Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first video from Norgnite 7 of 2022. It's going to feel like 2021 for a while. Granted that 2021 was one of the longest years and probably one of the roughest years of my life. One of my New Year's resolutions is to not be so lazy, so you may see a lot more content with actual editing come out this year. We'll see how long I'll hold on to that resolution. Honestly, I'll probably give up after like a week. But, whatever. Anyways, y'all aren't here for a little pep talk. You're here to talk about the new team, the Seattle Kraken. Now, for me, I have not watched a lot of Kraken hockey. They're a Pacific Coast team. They're at 10:30, and I got to get up at 5:30 a.m. every morning for high school. So it's been rough to watch Kraken content lately. However, with the Kraken games that I have watched, the insight that I've received, and the highlights that I have watched, I think I put together a good enough video to review the Kraken season so far. Let's start off with the preseason, where sadly this is probably where the Kraken are at their highest point. They had a 5-3 win against the Vancouver Canucks to start it off. Then they lost 6-0 to the Edmonton Oilers. Big wake-up call there. They beat the Calgary Flames 4-3 in a shootout. They beat the Oilers 2-1 in overtime, so they bounced back against Edmonton there. They lost to the Flames 4-1, and then they shut out the Canucks 4-0 to have a 4-2 record over 6 games in the preseason. Not that bad. Now, unfortunately, this was honestly the best record the Kraken had the entire season because after that, it got kind of rough for them. Now, we're going to call October the early beginnings for the Kraken because this was kind of a good, kind of a bad month, depending on how you look at it. Their first game, they lost 4-3 to the Vegas Golden Knights. I thought they played really solid. That was one of the few Kraken games that I watched this season. They beat the Predators 4-3 for their first franchise win ever. Preds will be hanging up a banner there. They lost in overtime 2-1 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Unfortunate loss. I think it was Patrick Laine that scored the OT goal. Then they got blown out for the first time. 6-1 loss by the Philadelphia Flyers. That was rough. Then they lost to the New Jersey Devils 4-2. Then they lost to the Canucks 4-2. Then they beat the Habs, who are struggling, 5-1. Then they upset the pretty good team Minnesota Wild 4-1. And then they lost to the New York Rangers 3-1 to put up a 3-6 record for the month of October. For an expansion team, that's not bad. And people needed to realize that they were not going to live up to Vegas' expectations when they came into the league in 2017. And then came the month of November, where they had a horrible losing streak, but they actually came out with a good record. They lost 5-2 to the Edmonton Oilers to start off. They beat the Sabres 5-2, not a big flex there. They gave the Arizona Coyotes their first win of the season with a 5-4 loss. That was the beginning of the losing streak. They lost 4-2 to the Knights, 7-4 to the Ducks, 4-2 to the Wild, 4-2 to the Blackhawks, and 7-3 to the Avalanche before they finally got a win against the Washington Capitals. And then they beat the Carolina Hurricanes the next game, which is pretty impressive because the Canes, I mentioned them in the Canucks video where they have Aho, Nechez, Svechnikov, Slavin, all those guys in that group. They're a pretty impressive team, so that's good to see that they beat a team like that. And then reality came back when they lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-0. But then fantasies came back when they beat the Florida Panthers 4-1. So it's kind of on and off when you look at the Kraken right now, to be honest with you, because they'll win games, they'll lose games, then they'll lose games, then they'll win games, then they'll lose games, then they'll win games. And then they ended off the month with a 7-4 win to the Buffalo Sabres, and they finished off with a 5-8 record, which is not bad, despite that horrible losing streak. Then December came along, and that's where things went. December was by far the worst month for the Kraken in their short history, as they started off with a 4-3 shootout loss to the Red Wings. I guess that's okay. They finally beat the Oilers, though. 4-3 win. Thank God. Then reality came back where they lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins 6-1. Jake Getzel was insane. 3-0 loss to the Jets followed up with that. Then they lost to the Blue Jackets again in overtime 5-4. They just can't beat the Jackets. Then they beat the San Jose Sharks 3-1, and that was their last win of 2021, where they would lose to the Anaheim Ducks 4-1. Lose to the Oilers 5-3. They lose to the Flyers in overtime 3-2 because, of course, my Flyers can't beat them in regulation. And then they lost to the Calgary Flames, Mark Giordano's former team, 6-4, where they finished off the month of December with a 2-8 record. By far the worst. So their overall stats through pretty much the first half of the season, they are 10-18-4 for 8th in the Central. They were 6-10-2 at home, 4-8-2 on the road, had 90 goals scored, and led in 117 against. Now, to be honest with you, they were 7th for a while because Vancouver was flopping a little bit. We talked about them earlier. And then Vancouver had their big Bruce Boudreau effect, and then they rose up past the Kraken. And the Kraken are chilling at 8th place. Some other statistics for people who care. They were 1-8 versus teams in their own division. That's tough. They were 2-7 versus Metro teams. They were 4-2 versus Atlantic teams. and they were 3-5 versus Central teams. So it's been a bit rough for the Kraken in the West Conference. The East has been a little bit better, but not by much. It's been rough overall. They have a minus 27 difference overall. They have an X goals differential of -5. They have a .375 point percentage, and their shot attempt differential is -43. Shout out to Money Puck for those last two statistics. That being said, we're going to move on to forwards leading the charge. Now, for new viewers of this channel, I do 3 sections when I do these type of videos. I do forwards leading the charge, blue line X factors, and the backbone. Let's start off with Jordan Eberle. Drafted out of Edmonton, traded to New York, and selected by the Kraken in the expansion draft. Jordan Eberle has been a lot of places in the NHL, and he's really made his mark. He scores a lot of goals. He's notable for that. And I feel like since he's come to the Kraken, although Mark Giordano is the captain, I feel like he's kind of taken a leadership role in some way. Although he has been in the league for a long time. So far, Eberle leads the team in points. He has played 30 games, has 12 goals, 10 assists for 22 points. Like I said, he's putting up the goals, and he's also getting the assists there too to put up the 22 points. But I feel like he's taken that veteranship role to really help the young guys, because this team is mostly young guys, mostly players who have had more minor roles on teams. Like, for example, Jared McCann. He was behind Sidney Crosby. For an example, Yanni Gourde. He was behind Stamkos and Kucherov. He really kind of took the toll to really teach these young guys and the young guys coming up how to play the game, basically. Moving on to our next forward here, we're going to discuss Jaden Schwartz. He was a player that was taken from free agency from St. Louis. And, he wasn't really thought of as a player that was really going to make a big role in this Kraken team. Obviously, he wasn't going to play first line. But it wasn't going to be a big role in the team. I thought it was going to be probably third or fourth or even fifth in scoring. But he's been second. And that's pretty impressive for an old player like him. So far, Schwartz has played 29 games, has 6 goals, 14 assists for 20 points total. That's not that bad for an older player like him. What I really thought at the beginning was the Kraken were bringing all these guys. We're like, oh, are they winning now or are they just trying to tank? Now they're just trying to tank. But I feel like Schwartz so far has been pretty decent and trying to lead these young guys along with Jordan Eberle down the road to have better points in their career. Moving on here, we're going to talk about a younger player in Jared McCann. Now, McCann, he was traded from Pittsburgh to Toronto and was selected by the Kraken in the expansion draft. And he's proven to be a pretty solid player, even though he was under the reins of Sidney Crosby for all those years in Pittsburgh. McCann's statistics are as follows. 27 games played, 13 goals, 6 assists for 19 points. He has more goals than Jordan Eberle, and that's impressive. He's a guy that can score goals. He's kind of an underrated goal scorer, and statistically as well, he's also been shown as an underrated defensive player. Those numbers may flop on the Kraken, but you still need a player like that on your team. There are many other forwards that I would love to discuss in this video, like Brandon Tanev, Yanni Gourde, but unfortunately, we have to move on. We're going to move on to the blue line X factors here, starting off with captain Mark Giordano. In his time with the Calgary Flames, he spent many seasons on that blue line and even won a Norris with the team, but unfortunately, in the 2021 expansion draft, he was taken from the Flames by the Kraken in his emotional leave. He was then named captain for the Seattle team, and rightfully so, and he's put up exceptional numbers on that blue line. 26 games played, 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points. Fun fact, one of those goals was against his former team, the Flames, the other night. Talk about an emotional return. For our next blue line X factor here, we're going to talk about Vince Dunn. He was overshadowed by Alex Pietrangelo, Colin Parayko, and Torrey Krug in his time with St. Louis, but he was selected by the Seattle Kraken from the Blues in the 2021 expansion draft, and he hasn't done too bad in Seattle. So far, Dunn has played 28 games, has 3 goals, 9 assists for 14 points. That isn't bad on that blue line, and I feel like if this blue line gets tougher and this team gets better, I feel like he will improve as well. And finally, we move on to the backbone. Who is the goaltender who has been suffering all the losses for the Kraken? Who is the goaltender who has been holding it all out for the team? That goalie is Philip Grubauer. After contract negotiations with his old team, the Colorado Avalanche, went cold, Philip Grubauer extended over to the Seattle Kraken and signed a big contract. He's going to be in Seattle for a while, and so far, he hasn't been terrible for how bad the team's been. He may have the weak games here and there, but Grubauer put up a 7-12-4 record with the Kraken. He had a 3.27 goals against average and a .882 save percentage. Now look, the save percentage may look bad, the goals against average may look bad, But let's not forget he's on the last place team, Seattle Kraken. Now, though the team may be bad right now, that's something every team has to go through. You have to go through pain before you go through success. Right, Vegas? All kidding aside, despite the losing record, despite the losing games, the Kraken still have some bright spots with Jared McCann, Philip Grubauer, Chris Drieger, Jordan Eberle, and Jaden Schwartz. There are some bright spots in this team. And let's not forget that they have a big prospect coming up in Matty Beniers. They are also currently 4th overall in percentage chances for the first overall pick, so they could very well be placing in the top 3 again for the 2022 NHL Draft. Although it may look dark right now, there is a bright future ahead for this Kraken team. Anyways, guys, that is all I have to say. If you guys want to see some more Kraken-related videos, go take a look at this playlist on the icon that's going to pop up right on your screen right now for some more Kraken content. Thank you all for watching. For Ice Pros Late, let me know in the comments below what your favorite part about the Kraken is right now. Although I really do like Jared McCann, I gotta admit that Mark Giordano on that blue line is making me pretty excited. Thank you all for watching. For Ice Pros Late, I really do appreciate it. If you guys subscribe, that'd be great. And I will see you guys in the next